most people seem to be hovering in a state of low anxiety or high anxiety, and so the breath pattern tends to gravitate more up to the chest as well. So just, a really, really simple one is just to visualize the breath is expanding in and out. So when you're breathing, you're expanding your rib cage, you're expanding the diaphragm, and also you're helping the movement of the breath to be more in the belly. So when you're inhaling, you're breathing into the belly and you're pushing the belly out. And the more that you practice that every day, then you start to wake up some of those muscles, but also to start to relieve the tension from the muscles which you've been overusing. So it's, just think of it as a really beautiful, massage that you're giving your whole respiratory system.
Welcome to Take a Deep Breath. My name is Mike Maher. I'm your breathwork coach and host of Breathcast. And my job on this channel is to help bring you the world's top breathing and wellness experts and understand their tips and tricks and techniques and backstory so that we can all learn together. Now, today's Breathcast guest is Rebecca Dennis. Rebecca is based out of the UK in London, and she's been a breathwork practitioner, teacher, healer for over 20 years. She's very well known actually in the UK breathwork space. She's trained under Dan Brule, who, if you've not seen already, it's worth checking out his Breathcast. Absolutely love Dan. And she's trained under a number of disciplines. And I really enjoyed speaking to Rebecca, and I think you're going to get a lot from this Breathcast. She guides us through a lovely breathing exercise at the start of the Breathcast and another one right at the end. So make sure you stick all the way through. As I said, she's been practicing breathwork for 20 years and she's so humble and down to earth and explains breathwork in such a great way. After doing 35, 40 of these Breathcasts, you start to think, maybe I've heard everything about breathing. Not even close. Every single time there are new nuggets of fantastic information about the breath, about wellness, about the connection with the mind, how to calm our bodies down, how to get us into different states. And this Breathcast with Rebecca is no different. I've linked to her website below. She has courses. You can work with her. You can go to her retreats. And I just really enjoyed speaking to her. Very, very knowledgeable about the breath. So I think you'll get a lot from this Breathcast. Just a couple of quick messages before we do get stuck in. I am opening up some breath coaching slots. So I'm opening up 6 slots, 3 for the Oxygen Advantage and 3 for Buteyko. So I'll just quickly explain what they are and what's going on. So the Oxygen Advantage is very much about people that want to improve athletic performance. So you don't have to be a pro athlete for this. It might just be that you want to be better when you're playing tennis or going for a run, and we can work on some different things. Also, if you're climbing some mountains, it can be anything really, but there's 3 slots there. And I'm also opening up 3 slots for Buteyko. Buteyko is a little bit different to the Oxygen Advantage. The benefits of this are more for people that struggle with their breath. Maybe they get out of breath really easily. If you find yourself getting out of an armchair or going for a walk and you tend to find yourself panting, Buteyko can be very, very helpful for that. I will link to both Oxygen Advantage and Buteyko down below. And if you're interested in working with me, as I say, I'm opening up these slots. It's 4 slots, so it's a month session. Each slot would be 1 hour, so it's 4 hours of personal coaching. So if you're interested in that, you can email me at hello@takeadeepbreath.co.uk and just explain maybe a little bit about why, and we can see if it's suitable for you. So yeah, 3 Buteyko, 3 Oxygen Advantage, and I look forward to meeting some of you on Zoom, and we can do this, if you're anywhere in the world, and some really great benefits to both. On that same vein, thank you so much to everybody that applied to be a guinea pig for my functional breathwork course. We've got so many applicants now, so please, we can't take any more at this stage. I will be back in touch. I'm sorry I haven't got back to everybody yet. We had so many people apply, and I'll be reaching out to you, and we'll be figuring out a way that we can test the course. Might be live, might be I'll just send you some examples of the things that we're doing. So thank you so much to everybody that put their names forward for that. Really, really appreciate that. But we have more than enough people now that have put themselves forward. So thank you. A couple of last messages from me. Make sure you stick right the way through to the end of this, because as I said, we do have a lovely breathing exercise from Rebecca Dennis. If you're not following me already on Instagram, please go and do so. It's takeadeepbreath.co.uk. And we also have a second channel called Binaural Beats Unleashed. Now this channel is completely free, it's here on YouTube, and I'm working with different artists that are producing lovely music for things like yoga, meditation, freeform breathwork, study. So I use binaural beats when I'm working on my breathwork course, for example, and I'll just type in binaural beats study music. And you'll find like a 3-hour version, and I'll just put that on and I'll just get into the zone. I know there's going to be no dodgy music coming out, and I can just get stuck in and know that I'm not going to get interrupted. So it's really great if you want to do breath work where no one's guiding you and you're just listening to your body and breathing however you feel you want to breathe. It's great for that as well. And I'm bringing new content several times a month. So if you would join me over on that channel and help us grow that community, I feel it fits in really nicely with our breathwork community here, so I'd appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anyway, enough yakking from me. Here's Rebecca Dennis, and here's our Breathcast together. Thanks so much. Cheers. So I've hit record. So Rebecca, it's 7:30 in the morning here in the UK. We're both in the UK, so it's really, really early for both of us. So good morning to you, and how are you doing on this fine day?
Good morning. Yes, I'm very well. I'm very much an early bird these days, and I like to be up when the sun is coming up. So yes, the sun is a bit foggy out there right now, but I think it's going to be a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's the same here in the Midlands. I'm not necessarily an early bird, but we recently got a German Shepherd puppy, and she is an early bird, and she's a bit like having a cockerel. So it's 6 a.m. almost on the dot. There's this bark, and the bark starts to increase more and more if we don't get up. So we've become early birds over the last couple of months. So there you go.
well, I have a 9-year-old, so that's been my alarm call for the last 9 years. Yes.
So I'm so excited to get stuck into breath work with you, to understand your story. But I thought, because it's early morning and we had a quick chat before we hit record, maybe you could guide us through a bit of an energizing breath work routine just to get us started.
Sure. No, I'd love to. Okay. So let's just begin with just closing the eyes and tuning in with your body, just noticing how you're feeling this morning or whenever you're listening to this podcast. So just closing the eyes and just scanning over your body and just noticing how you're feeling and just coming into this space of awareness. So getting really present with the breath, starting to allow the mind to follow the breath. So the mind follows the inhale and the mind follows the exhale. So just noticing where the inhale and exhale are moving, how they're moving, how your breath is. How is it flowing? Does it feel restricted? Is it tight? Can you feel it more in the chest? Can you feel it more in the belly? Just noticing. So really just coming into the body, all of your awareness, dropping from the mind to the breath, and then just placing your hands on your belly, breathing through the nose and out the nose, gentle breaths. So just slow, gentle breaths, breathing in through the nose and out of the nose. And as you're breathing in and breathing out, just seeing if you can bring the breath a little lower. So not necessarily getting a deep breath, but just seeing if you can bring the breath to move the diaphragm, that dome sheet muscle that sits underneath the rib cage. And as you're breathing in and you're breathing out, as you inhale, you're expanding the belly. And as you exhale, the belly comes in, keeping the shoulders down. So just coming into this place of presence, soothing the nervous system. So we're really relaxing back before we move forward into the day. Rewiring, resetting the nervous system. So just staying with your breath, breathing in through your nose and out of the nose. Soft, gentle breathing. Seeing if you can bring the breath down into the lower lungs. And then we're just going to lift the energy up, just raise the vibrations within us up a little bit by just breathing in for 2 and then exhaling for 1. So breathing in through the nose for 2 And then exhale. Breathing in through your nose for 2. Exhale. Gentle exhale. 3 more of these. And then place your hands back on your belly. Just notice if you're feeling a little bit more lightheaded, a bit more buzzy, and then just breathing back into your hands. The hands on the belly. So we're feeling awake, but we're also feeling calm and present. Good, and then taking a nice big breath in and then let go with a big sigh.
Oh, thank you. That was lovely.
Pleasure.
It's interesting what you say, because you're right, aren't you? Because you tend to find that in the mornings, stress hormones can be quite high, can't they, when we wake up the first couple of hours? So that's nice, isn't it, just to relax in with the breath. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it depends what type of sleep you've had, I guess, and what type of day you've got ahead of you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. What you're thinking about, what's coming up. And when you were doing the breathing in just then towards the end and then coming out of the mouth, were you doing a double inhale, it sounded like, or was that a feedback in my mic? Were you doing two?
Yeah. So with when we were going into slightly more energizing, just doing two breath strokes in through the nose and then letting go, but through the nose as well. So it's just helping to just start to stimulate the nervous system as well. It's good to, I think the sympathetic nervous system sometimes gets a bit of a bad name, doesn't it? Where people are always talking about stimulating them, the parasympathetic, but both have their uses, and it's good to just play with them.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to get stuck into this with you. So what would be amazing would be I always like to understand people's backstory. So before we get into maybe how you got into breath, can you remember when you first became aware of your breath?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, life is a long journey anyway, isn't it? I would say that the first time that I really appreciated, perhaps maybe not becoming so much aware of breath as in breath work, but the power of presence and the power of being in the moment and that beauty of just feeling really comfortable with where I was when I used to spend a lot of time in India, and 30, I think it's nearly just under 30 years ago was when I first went to India, and I lived there for a few months, and it was sort of back in the day when there weren't any tourists, and the beaches were very much clear, and it was a very, very different place. So we were living in a house with a Goan family and traveling around India as well. And I just remember that feeling of being home. It was just this really, really strong feeling of just that's why I would go back every year after that. And it just that feeling of remembering the nature there, and just like some really key moments where I would be on my own and there would be like a little hummingbird or a snake skimming across the sand, or I remember one day like a flock of like a bird of prey, when never get flocks of birds of prey, they're not but it was just on the beach with me on my own, and I spent a lot of time on my own there, and just having this awareness of yoga then, but not really being into it. Really my thing was running, so I would every morning habitually, my meditation really was running and having being with the elements, and that would really set me up for my day. So perhaps without awareness, knowing that moving the breath and being in nature and gave me that sense of really of belonging or coming home, no matter and so and then like I said, I would always go back every year to India. It had a big calling for me. So, I was always working in media before, but I would always get to this point, it was like, I need to get to India. And I would always try to go for at least 3 weeks or a month. And then very gradually, I started. It wasn't until years later, really, that I came across yoga. I'd seen people doing, coming from Pune and doing yoga on the beach. And but again, it was, like I said, it was just like being in the ocean and running and playing football, and and just that was my thing. And then we met this, my friends and I, Jess, we would go to India a lot together, and we met this incredible yogi. He was just this beautiful being, and he was blind. He had a very, very small ability to see through one of his eyes, and he was using the power of breath and the power of yoga. So he was telling us then to keep that sight, and just knowing the stories and studying from since then, I know that the power of breath and yoga can do some pretty amazing things. And he would be teaching us yoga in the class, and he was very, very focused on the breath. And also, even though he could barely see, he could hold that class of 40 of us, and you felt like he knew what every one of you was doing. So again, it was this feeling of presence and awareness, and how breath and movement combined maybe had a really very positive effect. And then so I got into yoga very, very loosely, and then I was always interested in studying bodywork and massage and healing and aromatherapy and all these other holistic sort of techniques and methods. And so really my roots were with bodywork. So I've been studying anatomy and physiology as well, because also that the power of touch and the power of working with your hands, for me, I was just something that I felt like was a natural ability that I had as well. And then during that time, I also I lived with depression for many years. So although I was this, I think with people, again, it was a long time ago. So it wasn't really something that people would necessarily talk about or have that understanding. I went to the doctors when I was 19. I was very, very low. They gave me medication. I got it every month, and that's just how it went. Here's your medication, you'll be fine. I could feel the difference. I could function. And then also, but then, I was taking it I took it for 15 years. And I tried again, I was trying all these different therapies, like finding yoga, mindfulness, psychotherapy, CBT, all of these things to help me to manage the depression. And I would, whenever I would try to come off the medication, it was pretty messy, and I found it hard to function. So I sort of resigned myself to the fact that was something that I was just going to have to take for the rest of my life, these antidepressants, in order to feel balanced. And I did used to get, anxiety and panic attacks. Like I could never, I do presentations to, people, 100 people in the room now, and I enjoy it. But the idea of, for me to have done that when I was younger would have just filled me with utter dread. And so, and then there was like this real shyness as well of kind of talking in front of groups. So, which was something I guess that really holds you back as well. And so so I was having psychotherapy and, different on and off throughout the years, different techniques. And then I got to this very, very low point. I used to have suicidal thoughts as well. And I got to a very, very low point where I ended up trying to take my life. with alcohol and with pills, and I ended up in hospital, and thank goodness it didn't work. So then I went back to see another therapist, and then 2 months later I was working. I'd moved out of media by then. I realized that it was just, it wasn't really working for me, and I was already had like a bodywork practice. And I was working in the yoga studio as well, working with kids with special needs, doing the fundraising for that. And I walked into this workshop that was there, which said Breathwork, and I had no idea what it was. And it was just, excuse the pun, but it just blew me away. And it's, I could feel every single cell in my body. It was very emotional. It was very physical. It was, I was sweating. There was like, it was a very, very strong session. I just, when I came out of it, I was like, wow, that, I just knew that I had found something that I could really feel. And I think that was that thing. It was just like, that I kept going back, and I went back to another workshop. I walked out of that workshop because I used to have, it was that thing about not being able to sit with yourself for too long, especially when you're sitting there and you're breathing and that's all you're focusing on. So the mind, loves to kind of, has its coping mechanisms. Kept going back for one-on-ones, and, within a pretty short period of time, and I really put the work in. I practiced every single day. And I was also, doing my running and my yoga as well. And I came off the medication with the guidance of my doctor. I would never tell people to come off the medication, especially if you've been taking it for that long, or just any medication anyway. She was a wonderful doctor, and she was just, maybe one of the first ones that was just really listening to me. And I came off of that, and I really managed to get through to the roots of the depression as well, where some in the ways that talk therapy couldn't. And so I knew that I'd found something really powerful, and it was right under my nose. And so therefore, it completely transformed my life, and was such, it was such a gift for me that I was like, oh, okay, this is like that missing part of the jigsaw, and everything else that I've been doing and learning, and all of that, all of that experience, the dark and the good and the light, that's all been, all of it, so grateful for. And then so then I went in and started doing my training, and then it's another story, but it went on from there.
Oh crikey! Wow, yeah, it's that wounded healer story, isn't it? That I speak to a lot of people that have got, they were struggling themselves, and then they come across and they have that first powerful breath session. Same for me. For that first powerful breath session, it was sort of a 90-minute session with Wim Hof in 2016 in Poland, and it just blew the doors open for me. This huge emotional release. I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? How can that happen just with breathing? And so, yeah, oh wow. And something you said, when you were in India and it felt like coming home or being home, it's funny because I've got that same sort of feeling for a country as well. Because are you familiar with the Camino, the walk across Spain that you can do? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I did that a couple of years ago, and it was sort of like 33 days of just walking for sort of 8-10 hours a day. And similar to you, probably, I was there by myself. So suddenly you're in a different mindset because you're like, okay, I've not really got a support network here. So you're more open. And that felt like being home. That felt like coming home. And it's weird because it's a different country. It's people I didn't know, but there was so much nature around. And I wonder if there's a connection there. Again, you could see the Milky Way when you're walking across the desert areas. You're up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You're around a strong community of people. But I'd never made that connection before. If it's weird you go somewhere that's not where you were born or where you're raised, but then you feel like you're home. That's nice connection there.
Yeah. When I was with people in India when I first went there, like nearly 30 years ago, and I would always go with people, but then there was always time when I was, I would spend quite a lot of time on my own, and I was very, very happy in that space. And I think it's, you know, it's just having the connection with all of those elements and that deep connection with nature that just, you know, I've never known anyone to have a panic attack when they're looking at a sunset. And, you know, it's just when you, although, you know, India can be an incredibly hectic place, and it's a very complex, beautiful, beautiful country. But yes, it just got my heart, you know. It was just this deep kind of heart connection of just feeling that when your feet hit the ground, you're in the motherland.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. I've still not been to India. It's one of those places that's still on the old bucket list. I absolutely need to get to, but I'm sure it's a very different place to where it was 20, 30 years ago, you know, which is true for most places, isn't it? So let's be honest, you know, everyone's got mobile phones now and that sort of thing. Cool. Okay. And do you think that the breath was the catalyst then to all of your kind of transformation? Because you had all those other layers of knowledge that, you know, the body work and everything else you were doing. Do you think you could have still got there with just the breath, or do you think that layer of knowledge that you had before around the yoga and everything else also helped you get to kind of that healing place?
Yeah, 100%, because you know, it's when you tie in, when you're working with the breath, you know, you can go to all of these deep levels and layers, but the body is, you know, is what the breath, when we're working with the breath, we're breathing the body, and it's the whole of the body as well. And I think just having that understanding of how we can release tension in our body as well, with the added benefit of working with the breath yourself, it's all of those teachings combined have been, and it's still, and I'm always learning. It never stops. And you know, I've you know, worked with lots of different traditions and worked with indigenous tribes, and you know, one of my teachers is a tribe leader from Ecuador who is just beautiful as well. And he, you know, and I think when you connect with these different people from around the world, all of the healings, although some, you know, they'll have their different methods, but they're all really coming to the same place as well, aren't they? So, you know, that's why I encourage people to become the architect of their own breath, and it's not necessarily a one size fits all for everyone, just to explore it. And but yeah, for me, working with the body, and also just understanding the science a bit as well, which is also very you know, exciting in the way that there's so much more research than there was, like, you know, 15 years ago when it was, you know, a lot of the stuff was, I've always been I always used to get told off in my physics classes for saying why, because I was like, what, why? I don't understand that. And then they'd be like, Rebecca, it just is. Yeah. And yeah, so I, you know, I think, you know, there was the many questions. I was like, but why does that happen? And now, you know, there's some great people doing some great work and some great science, and investing, you know, time and money in that to kind of just back up what the yogis, the sages and the masters of breath have been saying for thousands and thousands of years. Yeah.
I really want to hear more about this person from Ecuador. Can you share a little bit about how you kind of met this person? What sort of things were they teaching you? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we had a gathering, I think it was about, how many years ago? I don't know, 6 years ago or 7 years ago. And it's in these beautiful woodlands that I'm very connected to, called Wazing. And it was, the event was called Reigniting the Ancient Ways. So there was tribes and leaders came from all corners of the earth, from Australia, from Mongolia, from South America, India, Africa, I mean, New Zealand. It was incredible. I mean, just to come, you know, to come into these woods, and there everyone was. And I think it was at a time where the message, I guess, was, you know, some of these people that were coming had never actually left their their land. They hadn't even ever got on the plane. But I think there was actually quite a strong message coming from all of these corners of the earth that they needed to wake the little brother up, and and just help people to remember how to connect again, really, and just how to use these sources that we have, and just the disconnection with nature, because I guess that they're all living with nature. It's a way of life. It's not kind of living alongside it. It's you're part of it, and they're living way more harmony than obviously we do, which is how we've got into such a pickle right now. So really to just come and spread these, to share these really beautiful messages and wisdom. And Kurikindi, who is from Ecuador, he was there, and we just really, really clicked. And then I just started going on this path with him as well, where he was teaching me his methods, and I was teaching him. Like he loved the breath work. I mean, he was practically levitating when it was just you kind of had to be there for that first breath session. And then he's a great friend, but also a great teacher as well. And I guess one of the guardians of nature, and one of the guardians of the forest. So yes, we run quite a lot of workshops and sessions together when he's here, when we just combine. His English isn't. I mean, obviously, it's much better than my Quechua or my, than his language. But yeah, there's such love and humbleness in his words. Although he's I guess there was no ego there, and that really shines through. So yeah, he's a wonderful teacher, wonderful man.
Yeah, you really you can sense that quite when that ego is under control. And I noticed looking at your website that you've spent some time with Mr. Dan Brulé, and I've spoken to Dan, and he almost feels like that to me as well. This kind of breath guru. He's really got his ego in check. He's really funny. Can you tell us a bit about your connection with Dan? What you did there?
Yeah, I mean, I've trained and worked with many different teachers. So with Judith Kravitz, with Dan, with Max Strom, with Donna Fari as well, who I think is also an incredible teacher. So throughout the years, I've gone and done different trainings with them, and Dan I met when I love Dan's work, and what I love about Dan is that he's so generous with what he gives. He just wants to, like you say, it just doesn't feel like there's any ego there. He just wants to get the message out there. And his experience, I guess, is it's 40 years or something, isn't it, of breath work, and he's dedicated his whole life to it. So for me, I'm just always interested in just going and working with different teachers and hearing it being explained in another way. And he's fun. That's what I love about him, is that he's he always brings a lot of fun into it, and it's deep work. It can get really uncomfortable, and it can be it can bring up a lot of emotion, but that is the I guess the intention is ultimately is to be able to reach those states of joy and pleasure, and but you have to kind of go through the uncomfortableness, and so sometimes often first, and he's a real good manager of that.
Yeah, I said, Dan, do you ever get angry? He went, hell yeah, like that, and just burst out laughing. I was like,
yeah,
just a lovely, lovely man. No, although that's great. One thing I wanted to talk about next with you then, Rebecca, is connected breath? Because I've heard you mention that in a couple of your interviews, and I was looking online. And so I would love to understand a bit more about what that means, maybe how that's a bit different to, say, Wim Hof, or is it similar to holotropic or trauma release? So if you could kind of explain what is connected breath, and then after that, maybe a bit about the benefits.
Yeah, so conscious connected breathing. So there's so many different techniques out there now, and with some of them are, I guess, moving quite, I think with Wim Hof, there is, an element of connecting the breath as well, but going like at a faster pace too, to reach sometimes these states of hyperventilation. But then combining with the breath holds as well. So with conscious connected breath, or the one that the ones that I have worked with and adapted, really it stems from rebirthing and from holotropic. So from it was Leonard Orr and Stanislav Grof, who I guess were the pioneers really of breathwork back in the days. And so when we're working with the breath in this way, I studied with transformational breath. So that was my my big journey was working with Judith Kravitz and with transformational breath, and working with this conscious connected breath, but also looking at the breathing patterns. So having a deeper understanding of understanding our breathing patterns and helping to correct some unhealthy breathing patterns through conscious connected breathing. So because we're all unique, we all have our own breathing patterns, and some of us are breathing more up using the chest muscles, or maybe some shoulder muscles, some muscles that we don't need to be using. Some of us are breathing more in the belly, some of us are breath holding, some of us are shallow breathing, some of us are there's reverse breathing, there's there are all these different patterns, but then there's much more intricate breathing patterns as well, which I've been trained to see and to work with. And so with the breath and working with acupressure and with movement and sound, helping to release some of the where some of the muscles maybe have been overused within the respiratory system. So over time, because of when we're holding back emotion, or if we're holding back pain, then we tend to hold the breath, or the rhythms and the patterns and the depths of our breathing change constantly. So all of these emotions, all of these feelings, all of the experiences that we have, the rhythms and the patterns of our breath are in sync with that, but we're not always processing those emotions. And so all the microscopic little muscles within our respiratory system, over time, some of them are contracting, some of them we're not using quite so much. Often, we're trying to hold our bellies in as well. We're kind of, so we're not necessarily using those little muscles that we've got in the pelvis, which are also correlating with the diaphragm as well. So it's just about getting us to remember, getting the body to remember how we breathe when we're babies and when we're toddlers. And when we're babies and we're toddlers, we have got this beautiful open breath. We're breathing in the lower belly, in the midsection, in the chest, the back. When you see a baby breathing, it looks like the whole body is breathing. When you see a toddler, they're breathing in their belly. And there's no sort of, because there isn't any of that awareness yet of worrying about what people think, or fear, or fitting in, or we're just completely in the moment and completely present. So there isn't reason to tense up the breath, and so it's not until we get to the ages of 3 to 7 that we start to emotionally develop and just become more aware of our cultures and our authorities, and at school, and get told to be quiet and calm down and so on, or be brave, and then we start to develop these patterns, these life patterns, and store memories and store stories within our subconscious, but also in the fascia and in the tissues as well. And then so when we're working with conscious connected breathing using this, I mean, since lockdown, I've really adapted the breath as well to not necessarily be working with an open mouth breath. I find it's really, oh, can you just hold on a minute?
Course,
Wait
yeah.
there.
Hello.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's
That was my little boy just going to school. Where was I? So
we're talking about now during lockdown. Stopped using the mouth now.
No. I haven't stopped using open mouth breath, but also working with connected breathing through the nose as well. Working with acupressure too. But going back to connected breath. What we're doing is just helping to open up the respiratory system and to clear physical tension, but also just helping to clear some of these stories and also trauma that we're holding on in the body as well. So it works on that mental, emotional, physical level, and it's just the more that you work with it, the sessions are different every time. And it's that thing about, for me, with the connected breath, working with it in the way that I have over the years and with all of my clients, it's just this sense of like coming home to you, coming back to the essence of who you are before the stories and before the labels and the tapes and so on. Yeah, no,
it's this gut sucking. I only became aware of it last year when I spoke to, I don't know if you know of Dr. Belissa Vranich.
Yes.
And she explained that term to me. And I was like, oh God, I've been doing that my whole life. And so it's something that I'm now aware of, but it's still a habit I can't break. I find that when I suddenly bring attention back down to what's my belly doing, the gut's tense. And that's 3 years of sucking the gut and trying to hide a belly and all that sort of good stuff. I would love to get your thoughts on how can people break that cycle of gut sucking, because it seems to almost now be, for me, a bit unconscious.
Yeah, okay. So I think that one thing is, what I like to teach is that when we're breathing, rather than visualizing that the breath is moving up and down, so it's not moving up and down in a vertical way, it's expanding in and out. So because when we are holding our belly in, or also if we're overusing these upper chest muscles or the shoulder muscles and some of the muscles in the neck that we don't need to use because we've been sort of in this, most people seem to be hovering in a state of low anxiety or high anxiety, and so the breath pattern tends to gravitate more up to the chest as well. So just, a really, really simple one is just to visualize the breath is expanding in and out. So when you're breathing, you're expanding your rib cage, you're expanding the diaphragm, and also you're helping the movement of the breath to be more in the belly. So when you're inhaling, you're breathing into the belly and you're pushing the belly out. And the more that you practice that every day, then you start to wake up some of those muscles, but also to start to relieve the tension from the muscles which you've been overusing. So it's, just think of it as a really beautiful, massage that you're giving your whole respiratory system. Another thing as well, I think, because I think that, it can get very misconstrued, and it can, I think, where people try breath work and then they can find it overwhelming or they find it hard, is if people get told to take a deep breath and everything's going to be great, and you're going to feel so much better if you do that. If your diaphragm is really tight and you've got a tight chest, or if you've got high anxiety, then taking a deep breath actually can exacerbate that, or it can feel like you have that feeling of air hunger. Or you can't get the breath down, so you're like, I'm not doing it right. Why am I not doing it right? Why is it making me feel like I'm having issues with breathing? So a really good thing to do is just really simply just lie on your belly every single day, make a little pillow with your hands, so you can feel your belly on the ground, and just start to just breathe just gently in through the nose and out through the nose, and breathe into the ground, just pushing your belly into the ground. And do that every day first before you start going into all these other techniques. If you haven't grasped or mastered that part first, like the breathing into the belly, then you're not going to get the maximum benefits out of the other work, when you're with more advanced techniques. So yeah, just doing that, just getting that awareness, getting the breath to be in the belly first and then lying on the ground, breathing into the ground, because also it does give that feeling of safety as well. And then another really good one is to just go into child's pose after that, and then just practice again breathing, but with the breath. So you're feeling the breath moving on your thighs, and you're opening up the lower back as well. If you practice that for 10 minutes every single day and you haven't been able to breathe in your belly, I can guarantee that you will definitely notice a difference, and you'll notice benefits from that. It's so simple, but we sometimes overcomplicate stuff.
Yeah, so true, isn't it? So easy to overcomplicate. And I love that. I love the idea of just lying on the floor and feeling the expansion onto the floor. That's I'll be playing with that later. So that probably is a nice segue into, can you share a bit about what your routines look like? Because it's always interesting to know what people like yourself are doing. So do you have a specific morning practice, evening practice? Do you go with the flow? Can you give us a flavour?
Yeah, well, I work with the breath every day. So I am just always conscious every day about how I'm breathing and the way that I'm breathing. And just, is my jaw tight today? So maybe I'll just start, massaging the jaw to help. We have like little muscles at the back of the throat as well, which are like little diaphragms, diaphragmatic muscles, which are correlating with the main diaphragm muscle, just like the ones in the pelvis as well. So when you start to loosen the jaw up, then you're going to help the whole of the respiratory system to open up too. So that's just something that I might do when I am just at any point of the day. And then just being aware. I mean, when I'm running, I always breathe through my nose, and that's like a really lovely practice that definitely wasn't a great practice at first. I found it very hard. But breathing slowly and gently through my nose has really helped my running, and to increase the stamina as well. So just, when I'm exercising in the morning, then I'll always be working with the breath as well. And then I do, my connective breathing. I practice that every morning, but maybe sometimes just for 5 or 10 minutes a morning. And maybe, if I've got time, at least once a week, I'll be doing longer practices as well. But I guess because I'm teaching breath work, pretty much, not every day of the week, but many days of the week, it just starts to become like a way of life, and something that I'm just always integrating into the day. And I think it's, that's the thing, isn't it? If it doesn't feel like it's a chore, it's just something that you do and you become conscious of. Everyone can do that. Am I holding my breath? Am I shallow breathing? Is my diaphragm feeling tight today? There's just really simple acupressure points that you can work on yourself to help to release that when working with the breath. I'm
really interested about the back of the throat. Now, are you massaging back there? Are you doing anything, or is it just literally opening the jaw a little bit? What's
no, we have this. So it's called so there's the 3 diaphragms. I mean, I believe that there are 7 diaphragms, but I always like to focus on the 3. So if you imagine they're like these little muscles that like in the sort of the back of the throat and the neck, so which is correlating with the jaw as well, because the jaw muscle is it's the first muscles really that we use when we come into the world to cry, to express our feelings, and to also to suckle from milk from our mothers as well. So these jaw muscles get they hold a lot of stories, and also a lot of people grind their teeth at night, or when they're suppressing feelings or whatever, they're just like, tensing the jaw. So we hold on to quite a lot of stuff in all of, in the tiny little muscles in the jaw. And so everything is all connected. So all of the muscles within the respiratory system start from the sort of the base of the skull, going all the way down into your hips and down into your pelvis. So when we can start to, yawning is a really good way to release. Sighing is a really good way to release. It's just the body's natural way to release. And we tend to, a lot of people carry a lot of stress in their neck and their neck muscles and their shoulder muscles, and just like because of posture and living these sedentary lifestyles as well, that these places, if these muscles are tight, then it's going to have a roll-on effect on the whole of the respiratory system as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem I've got, because although we've got a standing desk here now, years of just being in front of a computer have just kind of created that kind of forward head posture. So it's definitely something I'm personally working on. Is there any sort of exercise that you can recommend or do to kind of help with some of that? Because again, I have very tight jaw, and I'm trying to chew my food a lot better now after speaking to a couple of people about that, because they're underused muscles here. But are there any other kind of tips or tricks you can give us?
Yeah, so really just you can massage your jaw every day. So just using your second finger and your third finger, or your thumbs as well, and just going into the jaw and just start, becoming more aware of your, the muscles in your face, and then you can just start to massage those every day. Doing some facial exercises as well, so stretching the mouth open, and putting it in all different, like moving the mouth and the lips like to the left, to the right. And working with the breath with that, and gently massaging it. And again, it's something that if you work on that every day, then you will start to relieve tension from there. But also just, that just noticing your posture and noticing how you sit, and doing things like to counterbalance it. So, getting a bolster, and lying on the bolster with the bolster lengthways along your back, then it's going to help to open up the chest muscles, open up the throat muscles, open up, if you're lying down and you're watching TV at night or whatever, just get a bolster underneath you, or loads of, cushions if you haven't got that. So yes, that's just a really, really simple thing that you can do, just to help to release that tension from there. And just be aware, am I clenching my jaw when I'm, just when you're doing breath work? I mean, sometimes when I see people doing breath work, but they're breathing through their nose, but they might be clenching their jaw slightly. So just remembering, is my jaw relaxed?
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's all these things that become habitual, and then we just, pay attention to it, and then just change it. The more that you can, it's just retraining muscles in the way that you can retrain neural pathways and thoughts as well.
That's exciting. I'm sorry if you can hear my puppy. She seems to have activated downstairs, so she's barking a little bit. No, do you know that's
okay? I'm sorry if you can hear the building works going on outside as
No.
well. Okay.
I love that. Again, it's so simple, isn't it? It's like just give your jaw a bit of a massage yourself. It's and that feels lovely. Well, I don't know why I've never done that before. That's so stress relieving just to do that. It's lovely. Right. Okay. That's a real gift. Thank you.
I'll tell you what's a really good thing to get, which is a thing called a guaosha, and it's spelled Guasha, and they use it in Chinese medicine. And it's like a little, I haven't got it to show you, but it's just like a flat little tool apparator that you can use to help to massage the jaw as well.
How are you spelling that? Sorry.
Guasha, a guaosha. And I sometimes when I'm working with body work with people as well, I'll be using a guaosha too. But it's really good for just working on the whole of the body too.
Right, I will have a look. I just wanted to go back to something you said a little bit earlier. I'm conscious of time, but you said that you've switched recently to a bit more of the nose when it comes to connected breath, and I'm interested to know what's caused you to make that switch.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm constantly evolving and I'm constantly adapting the way that I work. When you're working with conscious connected breathing and when you're breathing through the mouth, it can start to shift and change things very quickly. And if, for example, someone has got very high anxiety or chronic stress, that if you're doing that, then it's just a more gentle entry for me. Sometimes working with people than the nose first. I just have a really gentle approach with breath work. I don't believe in rushing it or trying to get to this point of I believe that trauma comes in all shapes and sizes. We all have experienced big and little traumas in our lives, some that we're aware of, some that we don't remember, some that we've blocked out for a very good reason on a mental, emotional, physical level. This last year has been traumatizing for everybody, whether we realize that or not. It's like everyone's nervous system has been put into survival mode at different levels. And so it's in the way that, I like to teach people the foundations of breathing, breath work first, before maybe we start going into some of these more advanced techniques, because for some people it can be really overwhelming, and for some people it can bring up stuff maybe a little bit too fast as well. And if I'm working with people online with that, I want to be sure that it's holding a safe container for them, because that's a priority for me always.
Yes.
Not to get the big fireworks results on the first one.
Makes sense.
Gentle and slow is how I like to go.
Yes, yeah, very lovely approach in to get people used to the sensations. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So the nose is a bit more of a gentle route in. Cool.
And also, sorry, also as well. It's not necessarily. It's you can still have some very, very profound experiences through nose breathing as well, and all these different techniques that I share, and just mixing it up. But yeah, it's just, I just, like I say, it's not a one size fits all. And I just like to go with my intuition and then encourage people to go with their intuition as well as how they want to work with their breath today.
Yeah, fantastic. Beautiful. So it would be good to talk a bit about you as a published author, and you've got some work out there and some work coming. So would you give us an idea and a flavour of what people can do if they want to find out more about you and what the work you've put out there?
Yeah. So I my first book, Breathe, I wrote 6 years ago, and then I've recently just released an Audible book, which is a practical guide to breathing exercises, and that's with Penguin. And it's not a book that you can read because it is very, very practical. So it's like a little guided course, really, that I just wanted to be able to, I can't always see everybody or I get so many requests. So it's just something that, it's like a foundation of breath work, which hopefully, people can really sort of master that quite easily. I think with this, I'm trying to make it very user friendly. And then my next book is called Let It Go, and that's out with Penguin, and that's coming out this July. And I'm really excited to be sharing this. It's more like a sort of a recipe book with different breathing exercises for different situations and challenges that we might have in our life.
Beautiful. Okay, so I will link to that below. And where can people find you if they want to know more? And
so my website is Breathing Tree, and I'm on Instagram on breathing.tree. And also I have a podcast as well. So I have lots of free breathing exercises on that, which again is sort of for people to just, you know, if you're awake in the middle of the night and you need to breathe, then there's just something that you can use, and it's free. So yes, but breathing tree is my website, breathingtree.co.uk.
I wanted to ask actually, why the tree? Is it something to do with the lungs and the way the lungs look? What was your connection to the tree?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that we can learn a lot from our friends the trees, can't we? And I like to have a very, you know, a grounded practice. And you know, my father was a biologist, and I always had that deep love, like I said, of nature. So, you know, it's that reciprocity of the exchange of the breath and of air. So yeah, I guess it's I have a deep love of trees, so I had to get the tree in there.
Fantastic. Yeah. Beautiful. Lovely. So that kind of brings us to the end, Rebecca. Would you kindly guide us out with a bit of breath work just to finish us off before we go off into our days?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so just closing your eyes again, relaxing your shoulders, maybe just rolling the shoulders back a few times. Remembering to just make sure that the teeth are slightly apart, your shoulders are relaxed, the neck is relaxed, your spine is straight, and just feeling your sitting bones on the ground or the seat beneath you. And then just starting to breathe in through your nose and out of your nose, and then just see if you can just bring the breath low and into the belly. So as you're inhaling, your belly expands. And then as you exhale, the belly comes in. And as you inhale, the belly expands. And then it comes in. And then we're just going to breathe in for 3, and then we're going to let go for 3. So inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. Inhale, expand your belly. Exhale, let go. And one more. Inhale, expand your belly. Exhale, let go. Good. And then just become aware of the temperature of the room, your surroundings. Just tune into your body, scan over your body, and when you're ready, opening your eyes.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for being on the podcast. Guys, please click on the links below for all Rebecca's great stuff. And we'll see you again on the next episode. Thanks, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Take care. Cheers, everyone. Hey everybody, thank you for sticking right the way through to the end of this Breathcast. I really hope you enjoyed the guest that we just had. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe and hit that bell notification, because we've got so many more top experts and wonderful human beings coming onto this show, and I don't want you to miss any of those great conversations. So please do that, and that would be really, really appreciated. Just a couple of quick messages for me. If you haven't done so, please leave a comment and hit that like button. I read every single comment that goes onto this channel, and I do my best to respond to them. So you might have a question for me, maybe a question that you want me to ask to a future guest, or you just want to put something into the community. Take a few seconds to do that. It helps the YouTube algorithm, and it's a way for us to connect as well. So I'd really appreciate it. Just a couple of comments, anything that you've got would be absolutely great. I do have a second YouTube channel called Binaural Beats Unleashed, and if you haven't done so and you wanted to subscribe over there, it's completely free. I'm working with a number of artists at the moment to bring different binaural beats. It's essentially different frequencies that are able to help us get into different states. So for example, I use binaural beats to study when I'm building my breathwork courses, and I just go onto YouTube, type in binaural beats for study, pop in the headphones, and it just helps me get into state for the next few hours where I'm focusing, no distractions, there's no rap music going on. I can just crack on and get stuck into something and not be distracted. But you can also use binaural beats for meditation, mindfulness, yoga. People use them to help them get to sleep. They want to use them to kind of get them into a different state. Freeform breath work is another great thing. You can put on an hour's binaural beats track. You just lay down. Just bring some awareness to your breath, see how you're breathing. Maybe you want to alter it in some way, maybe do some stretching, so some wonderful things there. So help me grow that community. Please pop on over, hit that subscribe button. I really, really appreciate it, and we'll grow another way for us to connect. I'm on Instagram, takeadeepbreath.co.uk. If you could hit that follow button on there, that would be ace. There's loads of content that we're putting on there. Try and cut clips up and just have another way for you to digest some wonderful information about breathwork, breathing exercises, and information from our top experts. Sometimes we don't have an hour to watch a whole breathcast, so I'll do my best to maybe get a 3 or 4 minute clip together just to give some information. Go, oh, I forgot that, or I didn't know that particular thing about breathing. So yeah, takeadeepbreath.co.uk on Instagram. And finally, I've taken some of the top breathing exercises from this channel and I've converted them into MP3s and just put them in a little MP3 store, and the link is below. For $4 or $5, you can own one of these breathing exercises forever, ad free. If you're going somewhere, you're not going to have Wi-Fi, you want to turn your phone onto airplane mode, that's yours. You keep that. There's no ads, and $4 or $5 just comes my way to support the channel and the Breathcast. So hopefully it's a bit of a win-win. You get an exercise for life, and we get a couple of dollars to help us keep going. So that's it. So thank you so much. We will see you on the next Breathcast or breathing exercise. If you're here for a Breathcast and now you're thinking, what should I do next? Maybe it's worth trying one of our breathing exercises. I'm going to link to a couple of them now, so you can try those breathing exercises, or maybe you want to check out another Breathcast like this one. So there we go. Thank you so much. Take care. Cheers.